Hello and welcome to our first topic, Topic 1, dealing with Chapter 13 in the Presidency. Today we're going to be talking about presidential power. All right, presidential powers. Article 2 of the Constitution outlines the constitutional powers of the President. Again, kind of some key review here is Article 1 deals with Congress and the legislative branch. Article 2 deals with the executive branch and the President. Article 3 deals with the Supreme Court and the federal court system. All right, so Article 2 is specifically left for the executive branch and the President of the United States. Each of these branches are limited by the other two branches, again, going back to the Madisonian system, checks and balances. So again, none of the powers of Congress, the President, and the Supreme Court are really exclusive. They're all checked by some of the other branches. Okay, presidential power through history has been on this steady increase. Presidents become more powerful throughout the course of American history, probably than what our founding fathers would have ever intended them to be. And again, those powers are derived from or extensions from these basic constitutional powers. And again, the president is a special entity because of the fact that it is one person. The United States' role in the world today, the modern world, much different from anything that the founding fathers could have probably envisioned at the time. Some historians and political scientists look at presidential power as reaching kind of a zenith with the imperial presidency of Richard Nixon, which is kind of a negative connotation. We also kind of look at 9/11 as a event in our history, again, which gave or which opened the door for president to take more power, more authority. Time of crisis, again, you could think about the Roman system of the Republic until there was a crisis, and then they transferred into basically a triumvirate or dictatorship with that singular voice and singular leadership. So again, presidential power has come, ebbed and waned, but traditionally through time, presidents become more and more powerful. The reading that you did for homework by Richard Neustadt focuses on the idea that presidential power really revolves around their power to persuade people. The art of negotiation, influence, and compromise is definitely more important or more expansive than the actual constitutional powers of the president, which are limited, and that was done purposely by the founding fathers. All right, we can break the president's power down into 6 basic categories. We have executive power, legislative power, diplomatic power, military power, judicial power, and party power. So there are the 6 basic categories. Sometimes you'll see these categorized as roles, presidential roles, the different hats that they wear, the different jobs. So you could see here that they have a wide range of different areas or categories that their power is used for or can be applied. All right, let's take a look at executive powers first. Again, kind of the main job of the President of the United States is to enforce the laws passed by Congress, to enforce treaties that are negotiated by the executive branch and ratified by the Senate, and enforce court decisions made by the Supreme Court. They carry out the actions of the other two branches. Presidents also have the power to issue what are called executive orders. These have the power of law, and these are given directly from the president and the executive branch. As the chief executive, in most cases, these orders are used to deal with more mundane topics, but presidents have expanded the power and use of these executive orders. We'll talk more about those in class. The president also has the power to appoint officials. He's going to appoint officials like federal judges, Supreme Court justices, heads of cabinet departments, ambassadors are just an example of some of the appointed positions. And all of those positions that I just mentioned are positions that must be confirmed by the Senate. He also has the power to remove those officials if they are not performing to standard. The president also has the ability to form emergency powers. Again, sometimes that's going to directly correspond with military power, but not always. And he also is going to preside over the cabinet and executive branch. He's at the pinnacle of that top-down system of enforcing the law. The 15 cabinet departments, the other independent agencies, the president is basically where the buck stops. All right, legislative powers. Again, the president gives the State of the Union address, and this is a constitutional requirement of the president to update Congress on an annual basis. He has the ability to recommend policy and submit proposals for laws that could be sponsored by members of Congress. Again, the president really is given the responsibility of coming up with a comprehensive legislative program. Sometimes this is called his legislative agenda on how to address big, all-encompassing national issues. And again, you could take Barack Obama and the issue of the Affordable Care Act as an example of the president using his legislative power. The president is also responsible, and we haven't done a very good job with this recently, of preparing a budget. And that's due to the Budget and Accounting Act of 1921, which gave the president additional power in helping to shape and prepare the national budget from year to year. And this is another requirement of that position. We'll talk more about budget here in Chapter 14. He also has the legislative power of signing or vetoing bills. He can either reject or sign into law bills passed by Congress. He also has the constitutional power to call for special sessions of Congress. If Congress goes on recess, let's say for vacation over the holiday break, the president feels that Congress needs to get back to work, there's a pressing issue, there's a national emergency, he can bring them and force them back into session. The president also has wide-ranging diplomatic powers, and in a lot of cases, you know, when we look at the president, we look at his advantages in foreign policy. Again, being a singular entity and speaking on behalf of the United States gives him certain advantages. He appoints ambassadors and other diplomats that are going to facilitate diplomatic matters in the United States with other countries. The president also has the power to negotiate treaties, which are not as common. Again, treaties are really binding and need the approval of the Senate, and also executive agreements, which are much more common and do not have or bind the country. They're agreements between world leaders. He also is going to be the main point person for meeting with foreign leaders at international conferences, economic conferences, for example, the G20 would be an example of one of those international conferences. He also is going to afford diplomatic recognition to foreign governments. If you have a change in government, the United States can officially recognize a government as being, hey, the legitimate government of a particular country. And he also is going to receive foreign dignitaries here in the United States and entertain at the White House, official receptions. I think most of you are familiar with, you know, world leaders, especially the notable ones when they come to the United States or the president visits other countries. This is something where chief executives are kind of the main focus of these diplomatic visits. All right, military powers. This is the one that you're probably the most familiar with in terms of the president. He is the commander-in-chief of all of the armed forces. He has final decision-making power in matters of national and foreign defense. And again, he is checked by Congress through Congress's power to declare war and Congress's power of the purse and the War Powers Act, which was passed in the 1970s, which we'll be talking about here in class. He also has the military power not only to deal with foreign and international threats, but also domestic threats. Judicial power. Again, the president appoints members of the federal judiciary, including Supreme Court justices, which is a pretty important job and has long-lasting impact. We've talked about changes in the Senate for the appointment process just recently. The president also has the power to grant reprieves, pardons, and amnesty. So a power given to the president really as an ability for the president to kind of jump or supersede the decision of a court. Again, this goes all the way back to an English king, some of the inequities of the English legal system where the king can basically imprison people on a whim. This gives the president the authority to pardon whoever he would like if they would commit a federal offense, federal crime. He can lessen sentences. We're going to talk more about pardons in class also. All right, party powers. The president is the head of his political party. He is the leader of that party. Right now, Barack Obama is the head of the Democratic Party in the United States. He has the authority to choose his running mate, his vice presidential nominee. He is going to help strengthen or attempt to strengthen his party by endorsing candidates from his party to win elected office. Sometimes this is called riding the presidential coattails, riding the coattails in the back. This has not been as a strong indicator, as strong in recent years, particularly when presidents in their second terms. He's also going to appoint party members to government positions. You know, good Democrats are going to fill jobs in the White House staff. They can fill positions in different executive departments, and the president can use patronage or the plum book to fill thousands of positions when a new president comes into office. He also can definitely influence the policies and the official platform of his political party to kind of shape or guide the future or the progress of that political party. Limitations on presidential power. There are some constitutional checks on presidential power. He can override, he can use the presidential, his veto can be overridden by Congress, 2/3 of both houses. The power of the purse is an all-powerful power of Congress. Again, if you're going to look at anything that Congress has that trumps everything else, is the power of the purse, the power to spend and decide where money is spent. The president can be impeached. We've talked a little bit about that. The Senate has final authority over all of the president's appointments, which is another great check. There also are, Congress can pass legislation that limits presidential power. Again, the great example and the real example of that is the War Powers Act. And of course, the Supreme Court can review any actions of the president and deem them unconstitutional also. All right, there are also some political checks, not just constitutional checks, but political checks. Public opinion checks presidential power. If he's not popular, he's going to have less power or influence. If he's more popular, he's going to have more power and influence. Media attention, where it's positive or negative, is also going to have a huge impact. A lot of the times you're going to hear the word bully pulpit. The president can use his position as the singular leader of the United States to bully people into certain decisions. Again, that's kind of the hard edge of that power of persuasion. And then finally, popularity. Again, that can be derived from the media attention, public opinion. They always do presidential approval ratings. That has a lot to do with how popular a president is. And generally, if you look at the next slide, you're going to see that presidents, in terms of approval rating, decline over the course of the presidency. And we're going to take a closer look at these. The only president here in the modern era that ends on a higher note than he actually begins is Bill Clinton, and that's pretty interesting. All right, thanks for joining me for this first topic about presidential power. Make sure that you take care of the Google form.